Hi there, Rebecca Koffler here with Censored But Not Silenced. And today I'd like to talk briefly about something different. We normally talk on this podcast about President Trump's way of doing business. There's a series we're running, Trump's Playbook. We talk about foreign threats to U.S. homeland. Today, I want to talk about hostage diplomacy and the moral implication of dual citizenship. You probably heard that U.S. President Donald Trump has secured the release of a Russian-American lady, Ksenia Karelina. She's a spa worker. She was detained in Moscow, and she was sentenced to 12 years in penal colony. They released her for another dual citizen, also a Russian, but Russian-German dual citizen, Artur Petrov. So what Karelina did was she was on vacation in Russia, and before that she donated $51 to a Ukrainian, allegedly, charity for the support of Ukrainian victims, but the Russians alleged that she was basically supporting the Ukrainian military. It's kind of neither here nor there. The organization is kind of shady that she donated to. It's different people interpreted differently, but it's $51. She was detained. She was facing 12 years, right? So after very, very hard work of President Trump's team, she was released. She's now back in California doing her spa work. And the guy that we gave back, the U.S. government gave back, is Artur Petrov, who was basically working for the Russian intelligence by transferring dual-use technology with military applications that was critical for U.S.-Russian weapon systems. There was a series of clandestine or other front companies that were set up, and it's a standard way of doing business. We do that, U.S. intelligence does. That is, the Israeli do those kinds of things. If you remember when a series of pages blew up in Lebanon, killing some of the terrorist leaders. It was a result of very long intelligence operations done by the Mossad that involved setting up front companies. So that's what this Russian dude was doing. But what I want to talk about is first, what does this hostage diplomacy do to the security of Americans? I mean, clearly there's a series of countries in the world, such as Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, that use that hostage diplomacy as a tool to grab Americans, but also their own people, in exchange for securing their high value assets, right? It's almost never that we get back a regular American citizen in exchange for a high value asset, such as the intelligence asset. Those are the assets that are critical to the operations, intelligence operations, military operations of our adversaries. Russia, in this particular case, the person who was a regular American that we secured was Brittany Griner. That's another very, very unfair exchange with the Russia, and Brittany Griner is not necessarily an American patriot. She was is a basketball player, pretty much hater of America. The lesson that she learned was while she was detained in Russia, that the U.S. government and the country that she hates, despite being from America, she learned that we would do everything to get her back, and hopefully she changed her feelings about this country. But what this does, our participation in the hostage diplomacy, is puts more and more Americans at risk. When Americans travel to countries like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, more and more of them are at risk because our participation in that hostage diplomacy has taught those leaders of those countries that it works, that they should keep grabbing Americans or grabbing the so-called dual citizens, and we would always get them back and pay very unfair price. And so, and that's why our people are going to be more and more at risk. The second issue is much more complicated that I want to talk about, and that is dual citizenship. What is dual citizenship? A lot of people hold like Russia, US citizenship, I don't know, French US citizenship, Colombia, but I'm just stunned how anyone can hold a dual citizenship, because and I am myself a naturalized U.S. citizen. I come from the communist country, Russia, former Soviet Union, and I embraced America. When I became the U.S. citizen, I became the U.S. citizens. My loyalty is 100%, 200% to America. In fact, it can't be any other way, because when you're naturalized, when you take that oath, and I want to read to you from that oath. It's a wonderful ceremony, but you take an oath of allegiance to the United States of America. And I'm going to go ahead and read it to you and have you think about that. So here how it goes. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely, entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have herefore been a subject or citizen, that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law, that I will perform non-combatant service of the armed forces of the United States when required by the law, that I will not perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by law, that I perform rather work of national importance under civilian direction when required by law, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. So help me God. So how does dual citizenship square with the whole earth, right? If you're a person who is holding a dual citizenship, particularly a citizenship with the top U.S. adversaries such as Russia, did you lie during your ceremony? Because you said you hereby declare on oath absolutely and entirely that you renounce all other allegiances to any other state. So how does that, how does that work? And Americans are very, very kind people, right? And U.S. president, we want to help, secure those that lady, right, who went on vacation to Russia at the time of war, Russia and America are right now in a proxy war over Ukraine. Right. So she went on vacation for whatever reason. And it's not anybody who is from Russia should know. They do know the consequences of that. The Russians are just always on the hunt for people like you. Why would you go to Russia on vacation? There are many other spots, right? I'm sure she's a nice lady, but U.S. president is a very busy person. He's trying to secure America. And instead he had to spend his energy, and his team had to work very hard and to do that. Another very unfair exchange. We basically got, we got the Russian back, for all intents and purposes. And by the way, the Russians don't recognize dual citizenship. Once you're a Russian, you're always a Russian. If she's a dual citizen, they think she is Russian, right? So we basically got a Russian back, and we gave them a Russian criminal back. Okay, so what did we get in return exactly? It's unclear, and I'll just give you an example. I know there are a lot of people who do this sort of thing, holding that U.S. citizenship, dual citizenship, for economic and convenience reasons. They hold 2 passports. Some of them are even holding 5 passports. That guy, Paul Whelan, was literally went to Russia. That we also got back. God knows, how many years U.S. government worked on that. That guy put 5 passports. Okay. Who's your allegiance to? Which country out of those 5? Or for this particular spa worker lady, who's her allegiance for? So a lot of people do that for convenience. They don't want to pay, and for economic reasons. When they go to their country of birth, they don't want to pay the money to get the visa, right? That they don't want to be bothered. They just flip, the passport. They go with one passport. They come back with another passport, and so that's shameful, right? There's no price that anybody can put on the U.S. citizenship. Another reason I have very direct experience with that. There are several international organizations that headquarters in the United States, such as the World Bank and the IMF. And I personally used to work for the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, when I was still a green card holder. Okay. And these organizations, such as IMF and the World Bank, they have an agreement with the US government that if you are a green card holder, which means you're a legal permanent resident of the United States, you're a US person at that point. You don't hold your passport, but you're a US person. But the agreement is that those people do not have to pay US taxes. Not only they don't have to, they can't while you're working. I was working for that organization for 3 years, right? And they get you for a relatively low salary. And then it was time for me to become a U.S. citizen, right? I was eligible at that point to become a U.S. citizen. And the minute that I became eligible, I wanted to become, because I wanted to be an American so badly. It's one of the reasons, my mother, when I was a little girl, my parents were anti-communist. She wanted me to go to America. And I went to the IMF HR and I said, I am going to become a U.S. citizen. We need to revise the paperwork so I can start paying taxes. And the person who was at HR said, are you dumb? Like, why would you want to do that? Because your salary is going to be reduced, because it's not like we're going to give you a higher salary. You're just going to be paying taxes now on all that money. And I looked at him and I said, there's no price that you can put on U.S. citizenship. I will become a citizen. And he proceeded to explain to me how he himself was a French citizen And he lived in America at that point for 20 years. He was using all the benefits, right? These roads the amazing roads, by the way, in America, the bridges, the fire department, whatever the services that we use, right? That the US taxpayers pay for. None of the, if you call an ambulance, whatever that is. And he proudly told me that he did not become, for those 20 years, even though he was eligible, and he didn't intend to go live in France because they all love America. And I can't tell you the number of people. I will do the research. I should have done the research. I don't know if that number is available actually, but they work and live in the United States, and they have no intention to go back to their country of birth, but they pay no taxes. And so I became a citizen nevertheless, and my salary, I think, went down like around 10, 15 grand or something, right? That was a loss to me. But I became a citizen eventually. I went to work for the US intelligence community. But to me, I was always stunned, like, who is your allegiance to? Like, and I always wondered, like, if you're holding a US Russian citizenship, which country is your loyalty to? And the two countries are at war. Whom are you going to, on whose behalf you're going to bear arms for? And now we are actually at war. It's a proxy war with Russia over Ukraine. But we do not rule out, as an intelligence officer, I do not rule out the possibility it's going to go kinetic. Because it's on the escalatory path right now that President Trump himself said that he is, and I quote, pissed off at Putin because Putin does not want to do a peace deal. So anyway, another story I'd like to tell you is that the older generation, like myself, from the Soviet Union, we came. We had a very, very different conception of what it means to be an American. There was no dual citizenship kind of BS like this Ksenia Karelina and others are into. There was a segment of the population who were refuseniks, right? Which means that there's a segment of like dissidents back in the USSR who wanted to go to America, but the Soviet government did not refuse their visa, because you had to have an exit visa, not just an entry visa into the United States, but an exit visa from the Soviet government. And the Soviets would not give these people an exit visa. So they were kind of the second-class citizens living in the Soviet Union. Even though they could come to the United States was willing to give them a refugee status, but they were not let go. So I have a personal friend, Ida. She's dated this person at this time, and she loved America. Eventually, she was able to come to America. But she first sent her daughter because she and her husband were both refuseniks. Somehow, miraculously, her husband got an exit visa from the USSR, and he could go to America. So they divorced for that reason, so he could go. He went to America, and then Ina sent her daughter. Once her daughter was 16, her father, who was at that point in America, got, the daughter out. And Ina did not see her daughter for 10 years. Okay, for 10 years. Why is that? Because Ina was not allowed to leave the USSR. And Larissa was her daughter, with whom I was friends. She lived in America, but she did not risk to go back. And she was first, she was given a status of a refugee, then the green card holder, eventual citizen. She did not risk to go and see her mother. So the two did not see each other, because she knew that, the minute she's there, the Soviets would do some sort of shenanigans. So Larissa then got married, and she had a baby. And so Ina, the baby's grandmother, did not see, the baby either, right? Her own grandson. So what Larissa did was she gave the little baby, he literally was a few weeks old, and he was on formula. And so Larissa sent her husband, who was a US citizen, with the baby to Moscow. It gives me shivers right now. To see Larissa's mother, and the baby's Brett was the baby's name, and he's now a young man already at this point. And so Larissa, Ina saw her grandfather, because the father, or Larissa's, Ina's rather, son-in-law, brought that baby to Moscow. So eventually, when the Soviet Union fell apart, right, Ina was able to immigrate to America, and we became friends. But I'll just tell you the story, the sacrifices that people made who actually understood what it means to be a US citizen and know that, dual citizenship, triple, quadruple, quintuple, or however many passports people hold. There's no price on US citizenship. And they did all these sacrifices. And I don't know what this Ksenia Karelina's deal was, why she decided, to go on vacation. I'm glad she's here in America. But I just, and you people can give me comments, right? I would love to hear y'all's, am I being too harsh? Give me comments. But it infuriated me when I saw that she went on vacation during wartime. Thank God she's, God bless her family, she's back. God bless everybody who is back, to America, safe and now home. But I just wanted to share with you this, the dual citizenship deal and the hostage diplomacy, and how it makes Americans less secure. It endangers them. So that's it. Wanted to share it with you. Rebecca Koffler was censored but not silenced. Follow me on my social media platform, YouTube, Rumble, Getter, X, Truth Social. Subscribe and ask me questions. Send me a comment what you think about my rant. Thank you, and God bless everybody.